Jump into this life, flying through the rings of sunshine, explore and fantasize, picking out before this ride, trying out all styles, and don't leave any friendships behind. Add a final touch, snap a photo so adventures can just rewind. The world is full of surprise all the time. Make a wish, and your dreams will come to life. Soaring high. Soaring high into the arms of blue skies, river fields are green, the breeze is picking up, it's time to rise. So won't be a fine line that just brings out your smiling eyes. So hold still and your courage will leave stars blending behind. Soaring high. But these worlds enjoy your challenge. With your talents, make some friendships and feel high. To harvest joy and sunlight, to navigate the perfect skies. There's so much more ahead in life. Oh, oh yeah. Oh, oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh my god. Together to live in our team. Yeah. Oh my god. The way I was like, haha, I'm gonna joke sing this, and then I fucking had to tap in and like try to really sing that. I know I probably still butchered it because I'm like, I don't be singing that high like that. I could have just did a low version, but that's okay. Um. Oh yeah. Hi. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of our podcast. Now, what was I talking about? For those of you not familiar with what I was just singing, it is the loading screen music for Infinity Nikki that just came out on like the 6th. And I've been playing it for the last few days. It is a open world sort of gacha game. In case you don't know what gacha is, basically gambling. It's gambling, honestly. But you get cute outfits and things. Well, I guess technically gacha is more like an arcade game. You know, like when you try to do the what the hell is it called? The claw machine at like an arcade where you put money in, you know you might not get it, but you're still gonna try. That's kind of what gacha is, and that's why I say it's gambling. It's just gambling. But I am not spending any of my actual money for any of the things that I could possibly get. So it's like gotcha, but you get cute outfits or accessories or whatever. There's like a lot of lore to this game. It's crazy. Like Nikki. So first of all, this is like the 5th game in this whole series of games. This is the first open world game. Otherwise, the previous games were just on mobile, and you sort of follow Nikki. You play as Nikki, and you follow her trying to save Mirrorland, which is like a place that she ends up being in. Because I guess she's technically from Earth or whatever. I'm like, but she has a cat that walks like on his feet. Like he's like a little like cat person. Because he also talks, right? I'm like, I don't know if you're actually from Earth. I don't whatever. But she gets taken to Maryland and she I don't know, there's like fucking genocide and you're trying to save the world essentially. And I'm like, what the fuck? I thought like the whole reason I started playing this game was because I was like, why is the lore so crazy for like a game that looks really cute and pretty? And it's just like, yeah, la la la, let's wear a cute outfit, and then you get in these challenges and you're like, huh, you just literally beat someone up because your outfit looked cuter than theirs. like you're fighting things are dying. And it's like, no, no, Nikki doesn't die. She just faints. She comes back. Yeah. I'm like, no, no, that literally just killed me. Actually, don't, don't lie to me. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It's been pretty fun. Oh yeah, one of the people who worked on Breath of the Wild, the Zelda game, also worked on this. So I'm like, okay, so this is gonna be like legit. Uh, and it's been fun. I'm like, I'm not a gamer really. I'm like, I want to game, but stuff doesn't really like hold my attention for that long. So I will get bored pretty easily. But also it's like when it does hold my attention, I'm just like sucked in and I have to like continuously play it. So I'm working on having good boundaries and things with this game. Like I play it after work for a few hours and then I stop and then, you know, fall asleep and do nothing else. I come home, I play it, and then I go to sleep. No, but I've been meaning to like come home, play it, finish my final, but I get cozy under my kotatsu, which is just essentially like a coffee table with a heating element under it. It's been cold. But yeah, it's been pretty fun overall. I'm having a good time. Just you guys and having a good time. Having a good time. Having a good time. Why Lonely Island songs are it's literally just called Just Two Guys. I'm also like, is it just now two guys and not the three? Um Andy Samberg, the other two. Oh my god. What, what are yeah. I'm Justin Timberlake. I don't care. Just two guys at the time. I think one of their names was Aziz. Um, Yorma Aziz. Wow. Akiva. Wow. Didn't know it. Oh, they formed in 2001. That's crazy. What the hell is the other? What are they doing? 18 years ago was crazy. And the quality is crazy. Anyway, I got distracted. Yeah, Infinity Nikki. That is the thing that I was doing. And also working on my final film. Since I'm doing a film production class, like my my herbalism community herbalism course is done with. I do want to take the other two courses, which is like there's an apprenticeship and then there's a clinical um level as well where I would actually be intaking patients and stuff. And I would definitely want to do that, or at least have the knowledge of what to do. And of course, my boys are being crazy in the background, but you probably won't hear that. Um, and then my yoga is done. My yoga is done. My yoga class is done with. And yeah, it's just my film production class. I'm doing a final. It's taken a bit for me because the assignment was just a challenge essentially where you try to focus on something that you found challenging during the class. And I'm like, well, nothing was challenging for me because I'm just so good. Now, um, but I mean, I have a background with a little bit of filmmaking, a little bit of filmmaking background, a lot of it with photography and lighting and everything like that. So I'd say the only thing was sound that I would have struggled with during this class because I wasn't, it's like I know everything else, but sound isn't exactly something that I've dived into really. So essentially, I wanted the project to be about sound, and it would have been about being like neurodivergent and having like a slow processing. when it comes to like people talking to me and stuff like that. So I did want to do like a short film about that, but gathering people for it and all this stuff, it just wasn't working out. So then I took the theme of challenge, and rather than make it about sound, I turned it into personal challenge. So for me, that would be essentially talking about my dad who passed away last year, almost 2 years now, because we're about to be in a new year. Um, he passed in February of last year. Um, yeah, so it's been, thankfully I shot it, but of course while I was shooting it, everyone in the world wanted to make all kinds of sounds while I was doing this. And so, which was really frustrating. And I was initially gonna maybe ADR the audio, but I was like, no, I can't. I don't think I could physically say any of this a second time, especially because just how personal it is. And I would probably choke up trying to even say it again. But also the fact that it's unscripted, it is just a stream of consciousness of me just talking to my dad and giving him an update of my life for like 7 minutes. Yeah. So yeah, so then it's like I focused on audio, but I think I did too much processing with it, which I was showing my teacher the other day, and he's like, "Yeah, probably just bring it back a bit. It sounds too processed." I'm like, "Fine, I guess." But otherwise, I would have been like done because I was adding in like B-roll, pertaining to some of the things that I said, and yeah, it would have been a quick little thing, but yeah, I just wanted to get the audio good for that. Aside from that, nothing on the right. Oh. To get into the content that the media that I've been consuming. So I've been watching Columbo. I've been taking a break from my girl Jessica. You know, she's from Cabot Cove, Maine. But taking a break from Murder She Wrote, because I usually put that on as like a thing to have in the background, because I've already seen like all 12 seasons or whatever. And now I have the DVD box set, which I have to rewatch because I want to watch all of it again and try to build like a family tree. Because I'm like, she be having all these people. Oh, this is my cousin. This is my nephew. This is my niece. This is my aunt. Has she said that? I don't think so, actually. But either way, I'm like, her family tree is crazy. But also, in the context of the show, she would also employ old Hollywood stars, essentially, that at that point in time, like it was the 80s, early 90s, um, they weren't getting work like that. So she was like kind of giving these people jobs, which is kind of crazy to say. But I think that's really cool. But anyway, to get into Columbo, um, at least from the little overview synopsis. Columbo isn't the typical detective whodunit TV show. On most detective shows, viewers don't know who committed the crime until the detective pieces the clues together and figures it out. On this show, however, viewers see the crime unfold at the beginning of most episodes, including who the perpetrator is. The mystery and fun for viewers is trying to spot the clues that will lead Lieutenant Columbo to discover the culprit and watching the tricks he uses to get a confession. Episodes of Columbo were movie length and ran sporadically on multiple networks during its runtime. Which its runtime is crazy. First episode came out in 1968. The final episode came out in 2003, which is so unheard of. now with like how streaming television shows are, because like you literally get like 6 episodes of a season and then bam, it's canceled. It's over. And like this fucking show was going on for decades, which is crazy. But no, Columbo has been pretty fun. I enjoy it. He's such a like schlubby guy. He always takes these people off guard because he's just like, well, I mean, I just there's just these little details. Like I don't understand why they would do this. And he's talking to the perpetrator, of course. And they're like, whoa, like the perpetrator, the killers are usually always like super cocky and just like, oh, this guy is dumb. I'm gonna totally get away with this. Like they have that kind of vibe to them, which which has kind of made it difficult to watch this show because I mean I love procedurals, I love whodunits and everything like that, but I also love following the detective and them figuring it out. And Columbo is a pretty fun and funny guy. And it's just kind of annoying to follow the killer. I'm just like, I don't care, you're a bad person. But it is also kind of fun to just see how they think they're gonna get away with it. Like Murder by the Book was really funny. Of course, spoilers for like just everything ever, all the time. Murder by the Book was kind of funny because that was about a guy who killed his writing partner who because they co-wrote books together, and I was like, oh, they co-wrote books, and of course they were murder mysteries, and then of course I thought about where she is a novelist and sells murder. Anyway, she she but yeah, they were a writing team, and I say team very loosely because one of them was the actual writer and the other one was more of the PR person. But the person who was writing wanted to go off on his own, so there was going to be a final mystery novel, and then they were going to go their separate ways. And of course, the person who doesn't write was like, well, I can't have that, so you're gonna just have to die. And I'm like, you can just work something out. I don't, why did you have to kill him? I think what's worse is that he killed him while he was on the phone to his wife on, and that guy was on the phone to his wife with the killers, like, instructing him to do that because he's like, "Oh yeah, no, just tell your wife you're in the office. Like, don't worry, we're just gonna chill. We're just gonna vibe in my vacation home." Crazy shit. It was so fucked up. But that guy was super. But yeah, so it's like, yeah, I'm like 75 minutes is crazy, and the first 2 episodes were like 99, 95. I was like, damn, this is going on for a while. So long, so long. But I think this is gonna be a show where I'm gonna have to just watch it on the weekly like it was intended to be watched. I don't think like I got to episode 6 and watching episode 6 was really rough for me because I was like, I hate this man. I hate this man so much. The killer, of course, because he was an art critic who wanted to inherit his uncle's like um art collection essentially, and his uncle had changed his will to have his ex-wife get all of those paintings. So he, of course, was like, "Well, I can't have that, so I'm gonna kill you, but I'm gonna make it seem like your ex-wife did it." Which it was I didn't piece that together until basically it was almost the end of the episode. I was like, "Oh," but also that person wasn't introduced until later on anyway, so I wouldn't have pieced that together either way. But I'm also like, come on. You think you're literally the killer and you're hiding evidence somewhere else. Why would someone who did kill him hide the evidence in their own home, right? Like, why? I like he was planting evidence at his aunt's house and everything like that, and it's like you do realize that someone who killed, like, he's stupid, he's dumb. Um, But yeah, so basically, if she got convicted of the uncle's murder, uh, then he would have inherited all of these paintings, and then of course, he would be able to sell these paintings because he's an art critic, but he doesn't, I don't know, enjoy art for art's sake. For art's sake, like he's not like an admirer of art. He's like, I see the value in this, and I'm gonna sell it. I'm like, oh fuck you. So, um, yeah. Oh my god, the way the episode ended was so fucking funny though, because of course Columbo's like, well, yeah, I don't think your aunt did anything. She's harmless. She's harmless. And you can see the panic come over him because he's like, oh shit, no, done. And then he's like, we have to insist that they search her home, just to make sure that no one suspects her. And it's like, but we don't suspect her. So why do we need to search her home? Right? Stupid. And then, of course, as Columbo's like leaving, he tells him, he's like, well, there's not much we can do until those stolen paintings show up. Because basically he set it up to like have, I'm like, it's so confusing. So confusing. So if basically he killed the uncle, he used a heated blanket on him to kind of confuse when the time of death. And then he made it look like it was a robbery, essentially, and he stole some of the valuable paintings that were in in his uncle's home. And then he had a woman who I guess he was with. I don't know if he was physically with her. Um, but he had a woman take the paintings and run off and everything like that while he set up his alibi at a show opening. He doesn't care about these fucking people. He just used them for the show for his alibi. Anyway, so he has that set up, right? A woman killed, like shot the uncle and then stole some of the paintings. Cool. So why would someone who is inheriting these paintings kill him and steal the paintings? Like that shit doesn't add up. Like, are you dumb? Like, like think it through. Think it through, please. Um, and then of course now he's like trying to set up his aunt. So he plants the weapon. He plants some of the wrapping paper for the paintings, and then he what else does he do? Oh, and then he fucking hides the paintings in her linen closet. I'm like, you're not. He's panicking, of course, because he killed the woman that was his accomplice, and I'm like, damn, that really fucking sucks. And before he even like hid the paintings in his aunt's linen closet, he had the paintings on him briefly in his home. But uh, this is fucking funny too, because he gave Columbo a key because he's like, I am not the killer. Don't suspect me. Here, I'll even give you a key to my home. You can go in there whenever. And he fucking comes home to Columbo asleep in his chair, which is fucking crazy. And and then he's upset, of course, because he does have the paintings on him and everything. And Columbo's like, well, I'm trying to understand this art stuff more. So, yeah, that's why I'm over here. I wanted to look at books or whatever. And he's like, oh, what you got there? Let me check it out. Let me check it out. And he's like, no, no, you can't check this out. And Columbo ends up touching it, but not seeing what they are. He touches it, but doesn't see it. And the guy doesn't know this, right? So when he hides the paintings in the linen closet, Columbo's fingerprints are probably going to be on this. And so when Columbo shows up, the guy, of course, thinks that he has friends of a higher power that gets Columbo off the case. I'm like, this is the second time in 6 episodes where somebody thinks they're powerful enough to get a lieutenant off of a case. I'm like, huh? Who the hell? And then, of course, Columbo's higher ups are like, yeah, you're onto something because there's no reason for someone to come to us and try to get you off of this unless they did it, And I'm like, oh, if only police were like this in real life. Um, because I'm like, yes, I know this is propaganda, but I also know in reality that most police proceedings don't really go like this. Um, but anyway, so they find the paintings after they search the aunt's house, and the aunt's just like, I don't even, the fuck? Where the fuck did those come from? You found them where? And of course, the nephew, the killer, is just like, well, I guess it was my aunt. That's crazy. And Columbo's like, we gotta dust these for fingerprints, and he's standing around and he's like, are you not about to arrest my aunt so I can get these paintings? And he's like, no, we gotta check fingerprints. And he's like, why do you need to check fingerprints? We gotta see if my fingerprints are on here. And he's like, what do you mean? Why would they be on there? And Columbo's like, well, remember, well, in your house, I touched these. And he's like, no, you couldn't have possibly touched it. I bet you just touched it just now. I bet you just did. And Columbo just like takes his hands out of his pockets and holds them out in front of him. And he's wearing gloves. And then the episode ends. It was so fucking funny to me. I was like, okay, this is why we're watching the show because that is hilarious. Like, what do you mean? This guy is panicking. He's like, no, you must have just touched. You must have just touched it. And Columbo doesn't say anything. Hands in front of him, gloves on. Fucking hilarious. But yeah, otherwise I'm like, yeah, we're gonna watch this like once a week because some of these people are so insufferable. Which, of course, I'm like, if you're gonna fucking commit murder, like, this is a crime of passion where you're like, oh shit, I didn't mean to do this. You're probably insufferable. Like, if it's premeditated, you're probably a terrible person. More than likely, you're a terrible person. Unless it's like a revenge plot or something. In that the person you're doing the revenge on is like someone that's wronged you, and I mean like physically abuse or like sexual or something, then like I get it. I mean, obviously we should live in a world where nothing like that ever happens, both people being assaulted and hurt in those ways. Man, life. And then yeah, this is probably gonna be a short epi because I was mostly focused on like getting this final done and what else? Yeah, that's kind of it. Doing the final, doing my things. I did go out and see a movie. I went and saw The Heretic, and I'm definitely gonna end it on me talking about The Heretic, which stars Hugh Jackman. That is not his name. Hugh Jackman is Wolverine. This is Hugh Grant. It stars Hugh Grant, who is British, and Hugh Jackman is Australian, actually. Anyway, to get into it, two young missionaries become engineered in a deadly game of cat and mouse when they knock on the door of the diabolical Mr. Reed. Trapped in his house, they must turn to their faith if they want to make it out alive. Now, they are missionaries, but they're Mormon missionaries. And it was actually very fascinating to sort of watch this movie, but then watch someone who is Mormon do a review of it. And let me see if I can find their handle. Um, and actually, okay, so this is an ex-Mormon, actually, and her name is Alyssa Greenfell. Greenfell? Greenfell. And she has like a whole hour long review of this movie. I'm like, is that about the same amount as the movie? Almost. Movie's an hour 50. She talks for an hour 20 about her experiences being a former Mormon, leaving the church, talking about how accurate the things that the Mormon missionaries in the Heretic movie are and stuff like that. And apparently, the two actresses in the movie, Sophie Thatcher and Chloe East, they're both former Mormons as well. I don't believe it was written by Mormons, but I'm assuming that the writers had them do any form of input, like they did their research basically. Um, and it was just kind of fascinating watching this movie in general because a lot of what Hugh Grant says in the very beginning is like stuff that I have like complimented contemplated. There we go. In the past, especially like growing up religious, and it's like thinking about all these other religions and how they're all kind of saying the same things and want the same things out of you, and how, or at least for me, I was like, I feel like religion can be more interconnected. But it's like listening to him, I'm like, ooh, whoever wrote this is very like cynical about religion. Like just cynical and yeah, I don't know. Because at least for me, I'm like, no, I don't believe in organized religion, but I do believe in like spirituality and having a spiritual practice and um whether there is or isn't like a higher power. I'm like, we have a duty to each other to you know, be kind and respectful of one another, and I feel like that's like really important to uphold. And it sucks because religion kind of shames you into doing those behaviors. And like fucking Hugh Grant is really charming, so I'm like, yes, yes, you're right, yeah. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh no. And then he goes kind of far crazy, and I'm like, "Ooh, no, I don't agree with that, actually." Like, of course, I do think that like religion has been used to control people. Like, I mean, yeah, you're kind of like I was saying, like shame is a very powerful tool, and it's like shame kind of forces you to like hide things, hide different parts of yourself. um you're always thinking that people are judging you, and it's like even if you're not thinking about other people judging you, you're thinking that some unseen entity is always judging you. And I feel like, especially because it's like December, it's like thinking of God and Santa Claus, right? Like Santa Claus is this figure that sees you when you're sleeping, knows when you're bad or good, right? Like that is not inherently like the Christian God, you know? Just knows what you're doing. And I mean, that would make anyone afraid, right? Like we can't, like using fear to force people to be good. And I'm like, is it really working? Because evangelical Christians aren't necessarily the best people, right? I'm like, how are y'all not being kind and understanding and towards like queer and trans people, for example? It's like, sure, these are things you might not understand or believe in, but how do you have the right to then dictate how these people should live, right? Shouldn't you just to them, come to us? really, because I'm like, I am the queer, the trans. Come to us with kindness in your heart and wishing us the best, like why should it matter to you that I'm not doing what you were taught to do your whole life? And I'm like, shouldn't that just challenge your way of thinking? And apparently, like, this movie has like sort of radicalized people. According to the person that I watched do a review, the ex-Mormon, of like just seeing people come out of this movie just like shocked and realizing like maybe maybe my religion is maybe it's not exactly what I thought it was. And also her going on about how realizing that Mormonism is a cult. Like she's in a cult. I need to finish her video the day I realized I was in a cult. Um, but yeah, it's like there's an indoctrination that happens to kids, growing up in these religious households. And when you're sort of isolated in that way and you're only around other people that practice the same religion as you, you sort of get this like you're living in a bubble. You don't really understand. Not that you don't understand, you just don't realize that there's other ways to live out there. There's other ways to interpret what either religious text or just morals, I guess. Because it sucks too, because I feel like some people would say that, like, well, how will you understand ethics? How will you understand morals if you don't have religion? And it's like, I don't know. I mean, I try to live in community with people. I try to be understanding to other people's circumstances, upbringing, background. I know that my experience is unique to me, and that's the same for other people. And, I don't try to come to people with like anger or frustration. Like, I try to understand a person that I'm interacting with. Because it's like if somebody's mad or upset with me, but I know I didn't do anything, I realize that their anger isn't necessarily directed toward me. It's just a general frustration and they're just letting it out. And I just happen to be there. Right? Like that's just something that happens in customer service. Unfortunately. But if it was and that's how I am now at like 31. Like if it was me in my 20s, still having like people pleaser tendencies and whatnot, I would be fawning and try to get this person, this stranger, to feel better and like do all these things to try to make them not yell at me or whatever. And it's like, you know what? That's fine. Just let it out. Whatever. Just brush this off. Really. Like I remember this old lady just was like upset for whatever reason. And then she just started yelling at me, and I was like, huh? Okay. This isn't directed at me. And then she came back a few days later or whatever because she really wanted to apologize to me because she just felt so bad and she was so embarrassed. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I realized that wasn't directed at me. And I just, I was like, sometimes people just need to let out frustration. Um, and And that kind of goes into like emotional regulation too. Like that's a thing, that's a skill that a lot of people aren't taught. And it sucks when you are growing up and your parents are also emotionally dysregulated like all the time. So you'll be a kid not knowing anything and then your fucking mom or dad gets upset with you because you're a kid and you don't know anything, but oh no, you spilled something. Or like the fucking Bean Dad bullshit off of Twitter, where this child wanted beans and or like I think they wanted something to eat or whatever, and the guy was like, "Oh, here, figure it out." And they've never used a fucking can opener. I'm like, how is a child gonna figure out how to do something when they've never done it before in their lives? And and the fucking parent watched them struggle all day trying to open this can of beans. Like, how fucked up is that? I'm like, somehow this turned into like a rant. But yeah, so it sucks because then you grow up, you don't know how to regulate your emotions. You think of anger as something scary that you should never feel when it's like, no, anger and frustration is your body telling you that you don't like something and you adamantly don't like something. And rather than yelling out in frustration because you're upset, you have to both feel your anger and then realize where it's coming from. Like, why am I feeling upset? What am I not addressing? Am I holding people accountable? Am I standing up for myself? Am I advocating for myself? Right? Because what'll happen too, especially if you're like in a relationship or honestly any relationship you're in, whether that's a friendship, family, or like a partner, um, if you're not voicing your concerns and your emotions and how you're feeling to people, and you feel like it's unsafe to do so, you can start to hold resentment towards this person, right? And then that'll just kind of fester and, become just this like angry outburst that's just going to happen all of a sudden because you weren't able to express yourself this whole time, right? And of course that's not on the person, that's on you for not realizing like, oh shit, I'm not advocating for myself. I'm just trying to be the bigger person. And it's like, no, advocate for yourself. Tell people how you feel. And if the person actually cares about you, they'll either, try to change their behavior because it's like, hey, this thing that you do, it makes me uncomfortable or upset. Can we figure out a different way for you to express this or do this or whatever? And it's like, somebody should somebody that cares about you will respect your boundaries and not try to control you really, because it's like boundaries are definitely like how they're not rules necessarily. Like, boundaries are about you and yourself and how you kind of navigate, and like rules are put on other people, right? um what the hell was I talking Heretic, yeah. To get back into that, um I don't know. It's definitely not a horror movie for sure. It's definitely more of a thriller. It does get kind of intense. I definitely wasn't sure where it was going for some parts. Because I was like, wait, is there like a supernatural element? And it was just kind of like him faking miracles and all this stuff. And he's like, why do y'all let me do these things? And I'm like, it's because of patriarchy and misogyny, you know? Because he was talking about how religion equals control or whatever, and I'm like, yes, well, yes, but also, control. It's control, but specifically patriarchal control, right? It's like men are the ones that are in control and using religion to control women and children. Like, that is what it is. It's not just like, so it's more about patriarchy, in a way. And it's like Hugh Grant is a charming, he's still attractive, you know? I don't know why I said that like he's old as dirt. He's 64. That's actually kind of wild. He's 64. Um, oh wow, he's had the same spouse since forever. Was he in children? Anyway, um, no, he's still handsome, which I don't use that word that often, but there's some men that I'm like, you know what? You're not just pretty, you're handsome. Because I use pretty for everyone. I use pretty for everyone. I use cute for everyone. I use beautiful for everyone. Handsome, I rarely use. But yeah, no, he's like really charming still. And it's actually interesting to see him use that charm for evil, basically. Mainly because it's like, yeah, like I don't when I think of someone who's bad or whatever, I don't think of someone who's ugly, which I kind of hate that that's become sort of a trope of like, oh, these ugly hillbilly illiterate yada yada inbred bullshit with like a lot of horror movies or like more so slasher movies because I'm like, let's be specific. Um, but I'm like, no, I'm way more suspicious of someone who is infinitely charming and overly nice because I'm like, why are you so nice? You're suspicious to me. Or why are you being so nice to me all of a sudden? Which I know that kind of sounds crazy. I'm like, I don't trust anyone. No, I trust people, but I'm also like, I don't trust someone who's overly happy all the time, right? I'm like, we gotta, we gotta, I gotta see you, um, have other emotions because you're suspicious to me, actually. Like, why are you so happy? Well, obviously, they could also just be high, high all the time. I don't know what the hell is. I'm high as a guy, I just might not hook you up. Let me go on, like I'm weather in the sun. Let me go on. There I am alone. Who knew this would be a singing episode? I'm like, I'm not gonna record the intro again. I can't. I don't even want to hear it again. But I might sing it again next time. Just make it sound better. We'll see though. But yeah, I'm definitely more suspicious of someone who is attractive, conventionally attractive, overly nice, rather than someone who's like not conventionally attractive. Because I'm like, it's really harsh to say somebody's ugly. I think that's also why I like Dale and Tucker versus the world. Is that what that was called? I love that movie, man. Dale, Tucker, Tucker and Dale versus evil. That movie's fucking hilarious. Oh well, I brought the overview up so I can bring it up. Two scruffy pals, backwoods. Oh, two scruffy pals, backwoods vacation takes a bloody turn when ignorant college students mistake them for a pair of murderous hillbillies. I like talk about flipping that trope on its head. Because they're just two dudes, man. They're going to their vacation cabin because they lucked out. But then on the flip side, you have this group of college kids, who are also kind of going in the same direction, and they're interacting with them, and they're doing like the fucking, typical horror slasher thing of like, oh no, these guys, man, these hillbillies, they're so scary. It's so fucking love it. And then all of a sudden they keep dying, which is crazy. So the country boys are thinking that there's some like weird suicide cult hack or whatever where because they keep dying in like these weird crazy ways while around them, and then the country guys are just like trying to stop it and save them because they're like, why are all these kids like fucking dying around our cabin? Like, what the fuck's going on, bro? And then what is it? So the one girl who ends up being like Honestly, she ends up being the final girl now I think about it. um, the one girl, she's like skinny dipping or whatever, and then she hits her head, and then one of the country guys saves her because she would have just fucking drowned. Um, and then she wakes up in the cabin and she's like, "Oh my god, are you guys gonna rape us?" And they're like, "No, what? Why the fuck would we do that? The fuck? What are you thinking? What are you talking about?" And then she realized, like, oh shit, we literally stereotyped you guys and thought you were gonna murder us. And they're like, "What? No, we're just trying to fucking vibe over here." And then of course she's trying to explain that to her friends, and then they're like, "She's got Stockholm syndrome. Oh my god." And that she sided with them, and it's like they haven't done any. I love this movie. It's so good. It's so good. And then there actually does end up being someone who is a killer. Um, not to spoil it, I guess. Oh wow, the budget was 5K. It came out in 2010. Yeah, how much it made in the box office? Hopefully, it made that back. Hmm, kinda. Kinda just made the same amount of money. Yeah. Well, I love it. But somehow I ended up talking about two movies, which is crazy. Heretic was good. It was good from like the perspective of like if you like I kind of joke and I'm like you kind of walk out of the movie feeling like you've become a heretic because if this movie could definitely make you question your own faith, especially if you're like deeply entrenched in the church. Just with how charismatic Hugh Grant is in explaining a lot of the stuff. Um, but overall, at least at the end, I feel like I was saying, like I felt like whoever wrote this was very, very cynical, but it does end with sort of um like hope, I guess, like hope that there is something out there. Maybe it's not the Mormon God or Christian God or whatever, but just something. And I'm like, you know, for me, it's like thinking about that stuff, it just I would like to believe that any of it exists because it just makes the world more interesting. But I don't want to follow the rules and regulations of organized religion because that just seems like a miserable existence, honestly. Because I'm like, especially with Mormonism, I'm like, who the fuck are you to tell me what kind of underwear I have to wear for the rest of my life? No thanks. Oh, and then of course I get religion in that it can build community, and I'm like, it really fucking sucks that our society, especially like American society, is sort of built around individualism. So there's not a lot of places for people to gain community. And it's like why a lot of people kind of miss being in college because that was the closest thing to living in a walkable city, to living in a community where everybody's getting along and everything's nice and everything like that. Um, and that fucking sucks. I'm like, no, this could be our reality all of the time if things were built different. Um, and like maybe we'll get there. I think that's probably like why I like living where I'm living currently. Because it does feel like that. But anyway, I think I'm gonna end it there. I stretched this to an hour almost, so that's good. But otherwise, you can check out the archive for my pod at NWWAT. Nope, I fucked it up. I'm like, let me just go to it. Okay. You can check out the archive for my podcast at nwwitapod.com. Again, that's nwwitapod.com. pod.com for archival episodes. You can also check it for the blog where I post the upload schedule. So this should be coming out today, which is the 13th. And the next episode should come out on the 27th, which is 2 days after Christmas, but that should be fine. I don't really celebrate holidays, so I'm not like going back to family. And oh, I would have did like 3 episodes last month, but I also was like, ooh, I'm only really doing 2. But it seemed like my SoundCloud kind of capped at like 2 episodes when I tried to upload it, and then there was like a weird thing with like the YouTube upload as well. But either way, I'll see you on the 27th. Bye.